be moving across to Jason Avent, who is the studio head at TT Odyssey. Hi, Jason. How are you this morning?
Very well. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome.
I wondered, maybe could we kick off perhaps with you telling us a little bit about TT Odyssey and who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I've worked in the Brighton gaming industry now for must be 15 years. I've worked at Climax and then Disney's BlackRock Studio, and then I founded Boss Alien, and we did CSR Racing and CSR Classics, and now I'm the studio head for TT Odyssey. So TT Odyssey is a small studio of 30 to 40 people. And our current game is called Lego Star Wars Battles, but we are, coming to the end of that soon. So it's going to be interesting to see what we do next. We have a whole raft of licenses to pull upon across because we're owned by Warner Brothers, and across the UK. I think we've got probably getting on for 1,000 people working in development. So we have. TT Games up in Knutsford and Wilmslow, and they've made all of the Lego games, Lego Star Wars, Lego Indiana Jones, Lego Harry Potter over the years. We've got Playdemic up in Wilmslow as well. They are most famous for the Golf Clash game, which is absolutely huge. It's got hundreds of millions of players. It's very popular right now. I think it's still in the top 20 in terms of top grossing. So they're doing a great job. And then Rocksteady in London make all the DC Comics games, most notably the Batman games. And then we're down in Brighton. We've got an office in the North Lane, not the North Lane, the Seven Dials in Brighton. Although we haven't been there obviously for a long time, so distributed throughout Sussex. And we focus at the moment on mobile and free to play, but that might change in the future as we move towards sort of a multi-platform future.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, no, that's. I was going on the journey of all of that content, and so many questions coming to mind. But I guess first of all, maybe if you could just talk us through how that relationship works with you and Warner Brothers, because I think that might be something that's quite new to a number of people. So Warner Brothers, how does that sort of work out?
Okay, so Warner Brothers are a massive company that are now owned by AT&T, and we're quite far away from them. In that we're down in Brighton, and we are kind of we're related to Warner Brothers through Playdemic. They kind of publish our content because they've got an excellent publishing team there, and it means that we get kind of largely left alone. So we feel very much independent, but with the backing and support of a multinational organisation and all the kind of personal benefits that brings you. And we also have all the HR support, the finance support, and we're never really worried about where the next project is coming from. That allows us to be quite luxurious as far as development is concerned, and we never have crunch. We always have the latest software, the latest hardware, the constant training, and we're connected to a kind of network of technology builders and services like QA and so on. So we've got the small company feel, but with all of the big company benefits. And 30 people can often feel like a youth club. It's very very fun. It's very supportive, very friendly, so we get the best. We essentially get the best of both worlds.
Brilliant. And how does that affect the sorts of roles that you hire for? Then you were saying that a lot of those sort of HR and operation functionality is sort of held by a central resource. So what does that mean your sort of team dynamic looks like?
Well, we're a pure developer. So we have programmers, artists, designers, one producer. We have an analyst. We have some in-house QA, but mostly probably, I don't know, a quarter to a third are programmers and a quarter to a third are artists. So pretty typical, sort of form for an independent developer, but it's part of a bigger company.
Brilliant. And what sort of skills are you looking for when you, and sort of attributes, I suppose, you're looking for when you're hiring for those roles? Is, I guess, it is a different sort of dynamic in that smaller team. Does that affect sort of your recruitment and what do you look for when you're hiring?
Well, our philosophy is that if we can get people to look after themselves, and I think this scales up to sort of 50 or 60 people as well as the 30 we're currently at. If you can get people to look after yourselves, you don't need as many managers. And so as a result, then, you can have a very flat management structure. But that does mean that we only hire people that are willing to work in that way. So willing to take responsibility for their task lists, willing to also kind of look after the people around them and make sure nothing falls between the gaps. So we engender this idea that nothing is somebody else's problem. And so that way you don't need somebody kind of having a holistic view over the entire project, or having, for every 5 people, you have an extra producer or an extra middle manager. Everybody kind of takes responsibility for looking after it themselves. So that means that's kind of a bit of a sort of unique property that we really look for. But otherwise, it's complete meritocracy. So we have a lot of very experienced people that have worked together for a long time, but we also have a couple of guys that left education at 19 and joined us straight away. So if they're good enough, they can pass the programming test. Maybe they've got some self-driven games development experience. Maybe they picked up Unity or GameMaker or Unreal and made something that looks like a game, whether it's a level or it's an adaptation of somebody else's game or a simple title themselves. It's very easy then to kind of say, well, they want to do it, and they've got the ability. So let's just make sure that their fit is correct, make sure they are willing to take responsibility for their own task list and managing their own time, and make sure they've got the technical ability by passing the various tests. So we have a very high quality standard, because especially in programming, if you have one person who makes mistakes, the whole team can be taken out by it. So we are very careful about who we bring in, and we try and maintain those standards as well for people that stay at the company, so that then that each member of the team can lean on every other member, and that there's no weak link in the chain. So it's really worth investing in that. So sometimes it can take 6 months to find the right person, but really age is no barrier. Being in a different industry is no barrier. As long as you've got the skills and the technical ability to pass the test and the interview process, then you're more than welcome.
And I think for me, that seems what's so empowering with the games industry is that so much value is placed on skills and experience that you can drive yourself. So I know we were talking about sort of Unity having free tools that you can play with, and as you were saying, sort of Unreal as well. So do you have any sort of, I guess, any advice for anyone who maybe is thinking about moving across from a different sector? So I've seen quite a lot of talk in the chat today of people maybe around aviation, or I know we've got some people signed up from financial services. So maybe if someone's working in a different sector that wants to step across into games, do you have any advice for them on sort of what the tools are out there, but how do they sort of use those to impress you?
Well, make something. I mean, Unity is in particular very, very available and relatively easy to get into. If you know programming, it won't take long to learn Unity, especially if you know C++, and moving over to C# is not a huge challenge. Even if you come from Python, I guess you've got a good chance of putting something together. So yeah, make something, I guess, is the key thing. And there's lots of resources, lots of videos. I mean, you can learn anything from YouTube nowadays, can't you? I mean, it's easier than ever to retrain, especially while you're working at home. You could spend a couple of hours a day while you've got another job, and nobody would notice, I guess. But there's plenty to do. I mean, and also if you've retrained and adapted, then that adaptability is and that will to learn and change is really admirable. We'd look very kindly on that.
And I do hear that so often when I talk to people who are thinking about taking pivoting in their career and doing something significantly different, is there's an anxiety about how that might look to an employer. But I always say, just sort of to echo what you were saying, that this ability to be able to adapt and learn and transition is so valuable. And I think across most of the digital sector, but particularly in games, I think those softer skills around adaptability, trying something new, doing it yourself are so valuable. So we did do an event on that towards the end of last year. So I'll make sure that we circulate some of the videos if anyone's looking for a little bit of inspiration. But thank you for echoing that, because that's reassuring to hear. I've seen quite a few questions coming in from graduates as well, just asking sort of how they can set themselves apart. Is there anywhere where someone's made a portfolio or has got work? How do they actually show that to you in a sort of a professional way?
Well, you can send it on a website, or you can send it on Box or Dropbox or whatever. Really, I mean, the kind of making the contact, I suppose, is the most difficult part. Are you going to share our jobs email? I think it's jobs.
We will do, yes.
Yeah. The easiest way for us to be able to go through the mountain of CVs is if the top line is a link to a portfolio. So if it's an artist, then it's going to be a whole blog of different images and animations and whatever else you've produced. But often we have games that you can download, either they're web-based or there's a sort of standalone that you can run, and that's the best way. If we can play a game, and then you can in an interview you can talk us through what you did and how you made it. That's a very easy shortcut to. And if you've got a music degree or a maths degree or something that feels very different from computer science, but you've proven that you can make a game in Unity, we feel that you can learn, we can train you, and we can help you. So, and graduate, we hire at every level. So at the moment we're looking for a programmer and a QA technician and a designer. And honestly, the level is not important. If we feel like we can find a graduate who is exceptional and can pass our processes, then that they can fill that gap. We can adapt around them. Clearly, I guess if we're hiring a technical director, then it'd be difficult to work around that. But at the level we're looking for, it could be anybody from somebody who's exceptional and a 19-year-old, or it could be somebody who's a graduate and maybe has a game in their portfolio that they can show off, or it could be somebody with 5 or 6 years experience, or somebody who's in the aviation industry or the automotive industry that has done some programming before.
Brilliant, thank you. And I've seen that Hannah has shared the links to your website and also to the email address for people to get in touch with. So those links are in the chat if anyone wants to take a look at those. So thank you so much, Jason. That was really helpful and really insightful. So thank you so much for joining us.
Very welcome. Thank you.